Welcome back and thanks for tuning in. Hey, today we're going to talk about the drill press. Well, more specifically, this drill press. Now, drill presses make a great addition to any shop, and the main reason is a drill press has some significant advantages over their handheld counterparts. Now, drill presses are more accurate, they're more powerful, and they're much safer to use. Now, the drill press you see here is a 12-inch variable speed benchtop model. Now, I use it for almost all my woodworking projects, and I consider it a must-have. Even though these machines contain many advantages, there's some simple modifications that can be made to give it even more versatility. The most common modification is adding a table to the base, commonly referred to as a drill press table. There are many different designs, and they're all made to suit a variety of needs. And these modifications allow users to stabilize larger workpieces, clamp down projects for more precise drilling, and allow a user to add jigs for reliable repeat drilling. In today's video, I'm going to take you through the step-by-step process of how I made a drill press table to suit my specific needs. It's a bit different than most projects out there, so I hope you find it beneficial. Before we get started, I want to ask you to please leave a comment, as I'm always open to hearing everyone's ideas and suggestions. Thanks again, and hope you enjoy the video. My name's Eddie, and this is EastWing Vintage Woodworking. In taking a look at my setup, you can see that I'm very limited on space. And making a drill press table that's wider than the base is going to present some problems for me in regards to the space it'll take up in my overall work area. The design I'm going for is something that's going to allow me to clamp small pieces to the surface and allow me to use clamps to secure larger projects. So let's dive right into it. First things first, let's disassemble this base and see how we're going to lay out this project. I've chosen red oak for its durability. In these next two shots, I'm pointing out how I currently use clamps to connect projects to the base. The underside of the base is hollow, so it makes it very difficult and tedious to attach the clamps. As I mentioned a moment ago, the top is going to be a 3/4 inch piece of red oak, and underneath I'm going to use a 1/2 inch of MDF. Here I'm measuring out the underside of the base so I can figure out how I'm going to get the MDF to fit. I want to point out right here where it's flat, and these are really the only places I can attach clamps to. So adding the solid base to the bottom is going to give me more surface area to attach clamps. If you watch other videos of drill press table projects, you'll notice that most folks incorporate a T-track on the surface. Those T-tracks are going to be used to hold everything from clamps to jigs as well as fences. Standard T-track is about 3/4 inch wide, so I'm installing my dado blade set so I can cut the dado in the top. Most dado sets come with a cheat sheet to tell you how many blades or shims you need to add to get to your desired width. With my set, it called for all of the blades, including 2 shims, to get to 3/4 inch. This is a zero clearance insert I made from a previous project, but I'm going to have to make it larger to accommodate the wider dado blade. I'm using this combination square to get the thickness of the T-track. I'm going to use this to set the height of my blade. I decided to use a test piece to make sure I had my depth and width set correctly. As you can tell, I'm glad I made that decision. With each new pass, I had to take out shims until I got it right. In my case, the fourth time was a charm. The bandsaw makes quick work of cutting out the rough shape. I'm going to use a flush trim bit at the router table here to match up the top and bottom pieces to the base. I decided to use carpet tape to secure the workpiece to the surface. Now all we have to do is just line up the ball bearing with the base. First we'll do the bottom piece, and then we'll switch it out and do the top piece. We're going to go ahead and use the oscillating sander here to clean it up a little bit. I have to cut a hole in the MDF in order for it to fit over this part right here. And if I don't cut the hole in the right spot, the bottom piece isn't going to fit correctly. So I decided to drop in a Forstner bit that was the exact same size as the hole, and I'm going to pound it into place.
That's what she said.
This 3.5-inch hole saw is going to be used to cut a hole in the top of our table. The hole is being created to add a sacrificial piece of wood, but more on that later in the project. I decided to use the oscillating sander to widen the hole in the bottom part of the base. Probably not the most efficient way of doing it, but it actually came out pretty good. It ended up fitting just like a glove.
I'm drilling the holes to accommodate the screws that they're going to allow the top part of the table and the bottom part of the table to hold together. I decided to use a punch to make sure that the holes are going to line up perfectly. In hindsight, what I should have done is just sandwiched these two boards together and just did one pass with the drill through both pieces. Okay, time to do a test fit to see how it all looks together. So as you can see here, this is exactly what I wanted. An easy way to attach clamps. Simple, with no drama. Just a little sanding here. Not too crazy, but just enough to knock off some of the sharp edges. Here it's time to lay out these T-tracks and then mark them so we know exactly where to cut them. I'm going to use these 1/2-inch wood screws to connect the T-tracks to the table. However, they were a bit too long, so I had to cut them down with my Dremel tool to make them fit just right. In addition to the screws, I decided to use some of this 5-minute epoxy for extra hold.
This is glue. Strong stuff.
I'm using some WD-40 here to remove some of the residue from the carpet tape. In addition, I'm going to add some paste wax to keep the surface from rusting. Since this bottom piece is made of MDF, I'm going to cover it in shellac to make it impervious to moisture and oil. I decided to cover it in 3 coats, using light sanding in between each session. For the top, I decided to use Howard's Feed and Wax Deep Penetrating Oil. Here, I'm cutting finger grooves in the surface of the table. This is going to allow me to grab and manipulate, remove, or replace the sacrificial piece of wood in the center. Here I'm drawing out my sacrificial inserts on this leftover piece of scrap red oak. We'll get back to this a little bit later in the video. So earlier when I did my initial test fit, I noticed a potential problem. The problem is when joining the top and the bottom pieces with the long screws, over time it's going to cause this piece of MDF on the bottom to bow or to sag or to essentially cave in to the underside of the base. As you could probably tell by what I'm doing, I'm adding some support pieces that are going to keep this from happening. All right, I think we have a winner here. Let's put this thing together and see how it looks. Now it's time to make those sacrificial inserts. So over here at the bandsaw to cut them out. All right, time to do a little test run to see how this works out. So this first initial test is making a new base for our drill press vise. Now it's time to build the fence. So the overall theme for this project is durability. So for the fence, I decided to use walnut. I want the fence to be 1¼ inches thick. So I'm going to have to take this 3/4 inch piece of walnut, plane it down to 5/8, cut it in half, glue it together, which will give me the 1¼ inch. I use my garage for storage as well as parking my car, so having a table saw like this as well as other tools that I could fold up and put away when I'm done makes things really convenient. The overall dimensions of this fence are going to be 9 5/8 inches wide, 2 inches high, and 1¼ inches thick. I glued the two pieces together off camera, so here I am trimming everything up to its final dimension. I need to drill the holes for the T-track bolts. See how easy it is to attach this clamp? I'm going to sand this down to about 320 grit, then I'm going to apply some finish. Looks like this fence is going to work out just right. So this sums it up for this project. I took the liberty of adding a few photos here to show you just how versatile this drill press table is. If you guys enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making this project, please smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for future content. Thanks again, and see you next time on EastWing Vintage Woodworking.